Why are you constantly exhausted, even when you haven't moved from your chair all day? You are suffering from a silent epidemic, the chronic disease of overthinking. Your brain is a prediction machine. Evolutionarily, it kept your ancestors alive by constantly simulating worst-case scenarios, imagining the predator behind the bush. But today, there is no predator. Instead, your brain's default mode network traps you in a relentless loop of analyzing past conversations, fearing future failures, and creating complex, catastrophic scenarios that will never actually happen. You are burning immense amounts of mental energy fighting ghosts in your own mind. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca diagnosed 2,000 years ago, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Overthinking is not a sign of intelligence or preparation. It is a mental prison that paralyzes your ability to act in the present. So how do you break out of this prison? The first practical step is realizing a fundamental psychological truth. You cannot fight thoughts with more thoughts. Trying to think your way out of overthinking is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Instead, you must practice what modern psychology calls cognitive defusion, creating space between you and your thoughts. The Stoics called this prosoche, the practice of continuous attention to the present moment. When you catch your mind spiraling into a fabricated future scenario, you must forcefully anchor yourself back to physical reality. Use the psychological labeling technique. Immediately say out loud, "I am having a thought about failing." This simple verbal cue shifts your brain activity from the emotional amygdala to the logical prefrontal cortex. You are no longer the thought. You are simply the observer of the thought. The second technique to dismantle overthinking is shifting from analysis to immediate action. Overthinking thrives in the abstract, but it dies in the physical execution. When your brain is paralyzed by 50 different what-if scenarios, you are suffering from analysis paralysis. You are trying to solve a 10-step problem all at once. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we must strictly separate what is in our control from what is not. You cannot control the final outcome, but you can control your immediate next movement. To bypass your brain's fear response, you must shrink your focus to the next small step. If you are overthinking a massive project, don't focus on the deadline. Focus on opening the laptop. Focus on writing one single sentence. By taking one tiny physical action, you break the psychological loop of rumination and force your brain to process reality instead of imagination. Action is the ultimate antidote to anxiety. Our third practical strategy involves a counterintuitive psychological tool: scheduled worrying. If you simply command your brain to stop overthinking, you trigger the ironic rebound effect. The more you try to suppress a thought, the louder it screams. Instead of fighting it all day, give your anxiety a strict appointment. The Stoics believed in an ordered mind, where every thought has its proper place. Set aside 15 minutes every evening as your designated worry time. Write down every worst-case scenario, every fear, and every anxious thought on a physical piece of paper. Empty your mind completely. But when those 15 minutes are over, you close the notebook and you walk away. If an anxious thought pops up at 10 a.m., you don't suppress it. You simply tell your brain, "We will deal with this at 6 p.m. This technique trains your mind to compartmentalize stress, preventing it from bleeding into every hour of your day and destroying your peace. One of the most destructive habits of overthinking is catastrophizing, creating those unnecessary scenarios. Your mind invents countless future failures and tries to solve problems that don't exist yet. To stop this simulation, use the Stoic technique called the view from above. Instead of being trapped inside your anxious thoughts, Mentally zoom out. Look down at your life, your city, the entire planet. Realize that your current worry is a tiny, temporary speck in a vast universe. Psychology proves this activates your observer mode, dampening the emotional response of the amygdala. By shifting your perspective, you change the subjective reality of the problem. It goes from an all-consuming mountain to a small, manageable grain of sand. You reclaim your mental bandwidth by recognizing most scenarios are just ghosts demanding attention they don't deserve. Now let's close the loop. You cure overthinking not by solving the thoughts, but by refusing to participate in the process. Every time you catch your mind beginning its destructive cycle, immediately implement this final protocol. 1. Acknowledge the thought using defusion. I'm having a thought about failure. 2. Anchor to your body using physical action. Do 10 push-ups, stand up straight, or use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. 3. Direct that energy into a meaningful task right now. This creates a strategic boundary around your focus, forcing your brain back into the present moment. Remember, your attention is your most valuable resource. Stop wasting it on manufactured fears. Break the loop of what if and anchor yourself in the undeniable power of what is. Stop overthinking and start living. Let's dig deeper. Why do you manufacture these scenarios in the first place? Often it stems from a toxic perfectionism, the belief that if you just think long enough, you can find the flawless decision that guarantees zero pain. Psychology calls this maximizing, but the Stoics knew that trying to predict every variable is an insult to reality. You must shift from being a maximizer to a satisficer. Make a choice that is good enough based on the information you have right now, and then aggressively apply the principle of amor fati. Love your fate. Whatever the outcome is, even if it's a mistake, accept it as the exact material you need to grow. The cure for the anxiety of the unknown is the confidence that you can handle whatever happens, not the delusion that you can completely control it. Another massive trigger for overthinking is your daily information diet. Epictetus warned, if you hand over your body to a stranger, you would be angry. Why do you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along? In the digital age, you are constantly handing over your mind. The endless scroll of social media, the 24-hour news cycle, the notifications, these are artificial stressors that hijack your amygdala. You cannot quiet the noise in your head if you are constantly pouring more noise into it. To stop overthinking, you must aggressively guard your attention. Create a digital fasting period. For the first and last hour of your day, refuse to consume any external content. This silence forces your brain to process its own backlog of thoughts instead of constantly reacting to new, manufactured crises. But perhaps the most sobering cure for overthinking is the harsh reality of your own mortality. The Stoics practiced Memento Mori, the daily reminder that you must die. Every minute you spend paralyzed in your mind, analyzing a past mistake or fearing a future that hasn't happened, is a minute of your actual life that is gone forever. You are paying for your anxiety with the only non-renewable resource you have: time. Psychologically, recognizing the absolute scarcity of time forces prioritization. It violently strips away all your trivial worries. Will you care about that embarrassing conversation, that awkward email, or that minor setback when you are on your deathbed? Of course not. Memento Mori is not meant to be depressing. It is the ultimate clarifying filter. It creates an absolute, undeniable urgency to stop rehearsing your life in your head and start actually living it today. So, here is your final directive. Overthinking is not a permanent personality trait. It is simply a bad habit, a glitch in your mental software that you now have the exact tools to overwrite. You have the power of cognitive defusion to label your thoughts, the dichotomy of control to force immediate physical action, and the discipline to guard your daily attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The next time the storm of overthinking begins, do not fight the wind. Step out of the storm entirely. Anchor your feet to the ground. Take a deep breath and simply do the very next right thing in front of you. The prison door is already open. You just have to choose to walk out. Stop thinking. Start executing.